Is it okay though if I ask you some things about Kurt's case and yours?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I can't guarantee that I'll answer it, but you're always welcome to ask. I'll probably answer.
All right. Thank you. Um. Okay. So you know about the Eric Blank guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so he's saying um that you and Dylan went with, I don't know, somebody. Oh, this guy named Daniel Clint Rich to the house.
Yeah, I've never heard of Daniel Clint Rich until the other day when they first brought it up,
Yes.
along with this Burns thing. So,
Yes.
but I know Eric Blank has been emailing me for years, threatening me and saying that he's going to expose me for the liar that I am and all this other stuff. And he put out a video about me. He claims he's a filmmaker, and he is getting a little bit better, at least at camera angles and stuff. But this whole video is just nothing but a little bit of hokey music and text scrolling across the screen, along with maybe once in a while a picture in the background. And it was this whole documentary that he put up on YouTube, and it was supposed to be exposing me. And I put it right on my own Facebook page for everybody to see. That's how afraid of it I was. This guy, we've never met. The stuff that he's talking about, he knows nothing about. He hears things from all kinds of different people who don't like me, and he takes it as fact,
Right.
And in this business
like they did with
he began there with Dylan, and I knew that he believes that I knew Courtney before she hired me, before the 3rd of April, and that I was up in Seattle before the 3rd of April. And, he can say whatever he wants. I know my life. I lived it. I was there.
Yeah.
I think, to me, it's really kind of funny. It's kind of humorous.
Yeah, because they see I'll point that out why they think that is because in the PDF documents of Kurt Cobain's legal documents, there's a fax from that I think you have of Courtney's handwriting or somebody's or Kurt's that says March 1994.
That's in the police reports. Yeah, that they pull that out and then they show that all by itself. But that's actually if you download the police reports from the Seattle PD website, you get 192 pages, I think, something like that. That's just one of the pages. And all their police reports, they include memos, they include little notes they just wrote to each other, they include photographs of evidence that they put on the copy machine and then push the button so it comes out all dark and blurry. You can't even tell what it is. It's just page after page. And then there's some things in there where, like, Detective Cameron said something like, we need to make sure those pictures are not developed because we've got that Tom Grant guy out there doing his dog and pony show,
Yeah, that's
so
stupid reason.
There's all kinds of stuff in there. But as far as the date, I even answered that the other day online, and I said, I don't know where the date came from, whether somebody added that later or what. I have no idea, and I don't really need to explain because I know that the first time I ever knew who Courtney Love even was when she called me on the morning of April 3rd. So I don't care what a memo says. I don't care what date it has on it. It means nothing to me. I know where I was, and I know I didn't know her before then. They also say, and the police said this probably because they believed it, but they wrote in their report that I was hired by Courtney's attorneys. Well, that's not true. They probably thought I was, but I wasn't.
Rosemary,
I was hired directly by Courtney Love.
Okay, yeah, not Rosemary, yeah.
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 No, I didn't even talk to Rosemary until after Kurt's body was found, and I came back to L.A. and Rosemary's office was just a few miles from mine, and she called me and she sounded kind of upset, and I could tell she wanted to pick my brain and I wanted to pick her brain. So I went up to her office, and that's the first time I met her was after Kurt died.
Yeah, it's really scary, what they did, and they, like it's. So you think they just mistyped it, like on the document?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's hard to see it as, excuse me, it's kind of small. I don't know if it's a separate piece of paper that they glued onto that, or if they just wrote a date on the paper of what. See, you can have a document
Mm.
in your hands if you're a police officer and you're reading through it, and then you make a note of the date that you read through the document, and it could be a document that was written 2 weeks ago, but you're just making a note of the date that you read that document. So
Yeah.
that could be what that date refers to. I don't know, and I don't really
Right.
care, because I know when I met Courtney, and I don't care what anybody else says.
Right. Yeah, like why would they have something that says from March 2nd on that anyway? That's probably past police reports included.
Yeah, and if the police officer that put that on there, if we knew who it was and if
Yeah.
he was still alive,
Yeah.
which he may or may not be, I don't know, but
Mhm.
I'd be willing to bet that he would be the first one to admit how that date got on there.
Right.
He wouldn't say, well, because Tom Grant was working for Courtney before then, and he wouldn't say that. He'd explain why that date was so different than the day I first met Courtney. There's
Right.
no big secret there. There's nothing to hide. It's just something that Eric Blank tried to make some big deal out of.
Yeah. Like that could be easily a past police report that was included in the PDF documents.
Yeah, it could be any number of things. I can probably think of 50 reasons why that date would be on there and how it got on there and all that, but it doesn't really matter to me. Oh, the other theory
Yeah.
is that when it was passed through the fax machine may have had a time and date stamp that put that time and date on it, but it may not have been set properly. Back then, our clocks and our watches and all that nowadays are set by satellites. So like if you look at your phone will probably say 9:20 right now, right?
12:20, because you're probably like
Okay. Well,
2 hours.
yeah, you're 3 hours ahead of me.
Yep.
So it's in any case, the time is we don't set the time. It's set automatically. We can even turn our phones off for a week. When we turn them back on again, it's going to have the right time and date on it.
Yeah.
Back then, if you had a fax machine, you had to be sure you set the time and date on the fax machine, just like the cameras that we used back years ago. The time and date wasn't set automatically. You had to set the time and date in your camera. If the battery went dead, then the time and date would go off, and you'd have to reset it if you changed the battery.
Right. You'd have to
So
go somewhere where you can find an
that's
actual
probably
clock.
the most explainable reason why that time and date is wrong, because it had to be set manually. It wasn't done automatically like things are today.
Right. Yeah. Everything's now totally up to tune. Yeah, that's pretty bizarre though. Holy fuck. Like,
Well, it's not bizarre to me because I know better.
yeah.
Things can be bizarre to people who are just reading it or reading about it, but I know the answer, and I know when I first met Courtney, I didn't even know her name when she first called. I didn't know who Courtney Love was. I was, I think, 47 years old at the time.
Right.
I wasn't a young Cobain fan. I vaguely knew the name Kurt Cobain. As she was telling me her husband's name, it gradually came to me. I think that's the guy that was playing guitar and jumping around on the stage of the David Letterman show or the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. I don't remember who was the Tonight Show owner at the time.
Yeah.
But jumping around and then smashing his guitar into the speakers. That's how I remember. That's the only thing I remembered and connected with the name of Kurt Cobain at that time.
Nice.
Of course, I got to know him a whole lot better over the years, but know about him, I should say. I never met him.
No, but spiritually, you have that connection.
Yeah.
I believe in that.
So for anybody to say that I knew Courtney before then, they can say it all they want. I don't care.
Right. Yeah. They say that you used to go to like some strip club, and that's where Courtney used to like strip or whatever.
The only time I've ever been to a strip club is when I worked West Hollywood when I was a cop, and we would have to go in and make bar checks for underage people.
Mm-hmm.
But strippers made me sick. I never got turned on by looking at a stripper, and I couldn't understand these men that would sit in there looking up at them and giving them dollar bills and stuff.
Right.
I'd rather have my woman with her clothes on any day, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just no. But well, let me think about what else there was. The note, the suicide note. In your photocopied version, there is no hole in the exact letters.
Well, not only in my version, but in the version that Courtney later put out after. My version has the dark lines through it because it wrinkled when it was going through Courtney's copy machine. So whenever you see the version with the dark lines through it, you know that's the one that I made the copy of when I came downstairs from Courtney's bedroom. But even when she put out her version, you can't see where the pen was. But and people have asked me that over the years, but think about it. Just take a piece of paper and poke a pen through it real quick, and then set that piece of paper down on something flat, and more than likely that little tab that's sticking out from where the pen was stuck through, it's not going to leave a clean hole. You're not going to leave a round hole in the paper from sticking a pen through it. It's going to stick through, but the piece of paper is going to be a little flap on the other side. So when you put that paper back down again, which everybody did when they made a copy, my copy I took to a photocopy place, and of course you put a piece of glass over it when you make a copy of it. So that brings that little flap together so that it's not noticeable. I can look at the copy and tell right where it was. And if I were to show you exactly where it was, I think there's a little tiny bit of a half circle, just a little tiny bit, where, that's where it was. That's where he stuck the pen. But, I get that question all the time. How come there's no hole in the paper? Well, there was a hole in the paper, but it still had the flap connected, and when you put the paper down flat, and especially if you put a piece of glass on top of it, it's going to look flat, and you're not going to see a hole in there.
Right. Yeah. You could see where it went through some of the letters, though, like the red letters, in the original photo that the police took. And then when you see Courtney's photocopied version that you took, there's those letters are perfectly okay.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I put it on a copy machine and then put the lid down over it, which compresses it completely flat, so it wouldn't be noticeable. That little flap comes up and covers that area.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can try that yourself. Take a piece of paper that has some writing on it and take a pen with the point stuck out so it'll kind of stab through it and stab it through really quick. In fact, put it on a pile of dirt like it was in the greenhouse,
Mm-hmm.
and then stab it through that, and then pick the paper up and look on the other side, and you'll see a round circular hole that's still attached, some paper that's still attached to the original. And when you close that up, and if you put that down flat and put a piece of glass on top of it, you won't see where that hole was.
Okay, yeah. I forget exactly what else. Yeah, Dylan though. Do you think Dylan is involved?
Do I think Dylan what?
Do you think Dylan is involved in Kurt's murder?
No. I've always said, I think the first night we went to the house and he went up, I let him go up alone because he knew Kurt, I didn't, and we knew Kurt had a shotgun, so I didn't want Kurt to see me first somehow and end up shooting me.
Right.
And so Dylan went up, and then Dylan was to come back down and let me know what happened and if Kurt was there and all that. And Dylan was gone quite a long time, so I assumed Kurt must be home and they must be in there talking. And then when he finally came back to the car, he just got in and he said, "No, nobody's home." And that struck me as strange. So obviously, as I thought about it later, after we found out that Kurt was laying dead up in the greenhouse, then I thought, I wonder if maybe when Dylan went up there by himself that first night, if he walked up around to the back and looked in the window and saw Kurt laying dead and just didn't know what to do or what to say, you know.
Right.
But there's just no way that Dylan was involved in planning it. From the point that Kurt was dead and that Dylan knew he was dead, I can tell you for a fact, the heroin addict, the only thing they think about is where they're going to get their next fix from. Yeah. So as soon as Kurt was dead, I do believe they were good friends. I do believe Dylan would never have had anything to do with planning or being involved in killing Kurt Cobain. But once he saw that Kurt was laying dead, he probably, from the glass, he probably thought Kurt killed himself. In any case, and of course he bought the shotgun, so he would be thinking, oh, now people are going to be getting angry at me for buying the shotgun.
Yeah.
But so I think he had a lot on his mind, but I think his main thing was his connection to Courtney. Courtney was still alive. Courtney was calling and talking to him on the phone all the time, and obviously Courtney was going to be his source of money for heroin.
Exactly.
So he became one of Courtney's puppets immediately.
Yeah. What do you think
that
about?
That doesn't mean he did anything necessarily illegal other than not reporting a dead body. It means the first thing on a heroin addict's mind is getting their next heroin fix. They only go about 4 hours in between each fix, and if they don't get it, it starts really affecting their body. So they don't have a whole lot of time in between the last fix they got and then where are they going to get the next one, you know, and where are they going to get the money for the next one. Dylan wasn't working other than his little band. You know, he probably got a little bit of money on weekends.
Yeah, what do you think about Joe Burns from Dylan's band Earth?
I don't give any credibility to Joe Burns whatsoever, and I know for a fact that Joe Burns is a Nazi sympathizer. He wears a Nazi emblem. Let's see. I think there's one. Well, I know on a T-shirt. He has a T-shirt with a thing that actually says "I agree with Hitler" right on his T-shirt. I mean, that's despicable to me. Are you kidding me?
But what about him
being a witness? You don't care that somebody killed millions of people?
But what about him being a witness to what happened to Kurt and seeing Kurt's money?
I don't care. First of all, I don't believe him. I've heard his stories. I was
even
involved.
Courtney said to you over the voicemail that Joe and Bonnie, the people that were at the house.
No, that was totally misrepresented. Courtney was
talking. There though.
What?
That means he was there though, and that body was there.
You thought he was where?
No, that means that he was there Joe was at the house, and that so was
No, it
Bonnie.
doesn't. No, it doesn't.
She
The
said though
people
that
that
they
are,
were at the house.
let me explain. Let me explain.
Yeah.
Because I made that recording, so I know what that recording's all about.
Yeah.
The people like Michelle, who's doing interviews about that and using that little clip, she's misusing it, and she's trying to make it sound like Courtney's saying that Joe and Bonnie are up in Seattle. She wasn't. That was a phone call, I don't know, less than a month after Kurt died. Wait a second. Yeah. And Dylan had gone to L.A., or not Dylan, Callie had gone to L.A., and Courtney knew I wanted to talk to Callie. So she called me and left a message on my answering machine, and it didn't have anything to do with Joe and Bonnie. It had to do with Callie being at that house. She only mentioned Joe and Bonnie because for some reason, and Courtney's very absent-minded and doesn't remember anything. I mean, she would say to me all the time, you know, you were there, Tom. You saw that. And she's talking about stuff. No, I wasn't there. I didn't see that.
Right.
And sometimes she's doing that just to pick my brain, you know, and see if I was there or if I knew something.
Okay.
But the point is, at that particular time, all I cared about was finding Callie. Now, people can make anything they want out of that recording, but I know when that recording was made, I know why Courtney called me. She was trying to lead me to the house where she claimed Callie was staying. I don't even know if he was really staying there. What I do know, it was a big house with a bunch of drug dealers in it. And there's no way I'm going to go up to that house all by myself and knock on the door.
No.
So I did a surveillance on the house for a day or so. I never saw Callie come and go. I saw a bunch of other people come and go. I wouldn't have recognized Joe because I'd never seen him before.
Yeah,
he was
Jimmy
much
Boyle.
younger. He was 30 younger back then. But Courtney was throwing names around all the time. If I were to try to remember the names that Courtney would throw into every conversation we would have, I only cared about Callie. I knew nothing about Joe and Bonnie. I knew nothing about them. She just threw their names into that conversation.
Right. Yeah, because they say that Kurt was attacked in the basement.
No. You know what the first story was?
Well,
Because I heard this a year ago, Zach. I heard the story a year ago. The story that was presented to me was that they were in the basement and Kurt went down, or Dylan went down and got in an argument with Kurt and hit him over the head with one of those Coleman lanterns and knocked him out.
okay. What
Well,
lantern?
Joe never says that. Joe doesn't say that at all. And they also started promoting Joe as a witness to the murder.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a witness to the murder. Everything Joe has to say has to do with him and Bonnie being either outside. At one time he'll say that we were outside. Another time he'll say we were in the kitchen. So his story keeps changing. But in any case, he never claims to have seen Kurt being killed. He claims that he saw Kurt going up to the greenhouse with two other people, and that later on he heard a gunshot.
Right. Yeah, like around.
That's not a witness. I know what is required of a legal witness in a courtroom. He didn't witness anything. There was about a half an hour time period there where any good attorney, if they were cross-examining him, would say things like, now, during that half hour, were you watching the greenhouse the whole time? And of course, Joe would say no, because he obviously didn't stand there for a half hour just staring there. And if he was, he would have seen Kurt being killed if his story is true. So obviously there would be a time period there where either of those two people that walked up there with Kurt could have easily left the greenhouse, walked down the stairs, and walked through the bushes into the park next door and out to their car and left. So Joe has no evidence whatsoever, not only what he claims to be his own eyewitness testimony. All he saw was Kurt going up to the greenhouse with two guys. Sometimes the story is that Kurt was being carried. Other times the story, the last one that I just heard that I listened to Joe talking about, he was saying, well, Kurt had his head kind of down like he had heroin, he was nodding off, and they were just walking him up there. And then other times he said he has told people that they carried Kurt up to the greenhouse. So the point that I'm making is this man has no credibility, and I'm telling you, even if I believed every word that he said, it doesn't mean anything. He's coming forward 30 years later. What happens is you have to take your case to a prosecutor, and you have to submit witnesses to a prosecutor and tell the prosecutor what the witness story is.
The law, yeah, exactly.
If this witness ever listened to Joe talking and saw the video of Joe talking and saw the swastika stuff on him and his T-shirt that says I think Hitler was right. He's got that emblazoned on his T-shirts.
But
if the district attorney saw that, they'd say, I don't want anything to do with this guy. He's not a witness.
No. That stuff doesn't matter. Like he could wear something like, let's say, a banana and pajamas T-shirt from the 90s, and we could, that doesn't mean that we say he's wasn't a witness to a murder years ago.
Now wait a second. You're under the misinterpretation that he was wearing that shirt in the 90s. He was wearing that shirt when he came.
No, that's not what I meant. What I mean is, it doesn't matter what shirt he wore. He was a witness to a murder years ago.
No, it does matter what shirt he wore, because if you believe that it's okay to kill millions of people, then you're not going to be witness in a court of law.
I'm against the Great Reset and the Build Back Better technocratic agenda. I'm against all of that. I don't like that he's for it. But I don't know why he would go that way. Now that we're here in the future now, and all.
And this is him here today. In fact, the women who are bringing him forward and making such a big deal about him, they've even admitted. They made a stupid statement online, and they said, "Yeah, we weren't too happy about finding out about that, but he didn't used to be like that." And I wrote back to them. I said, "Well, the key word here is he didn't used to be like that, but he is like that now, and now is when you're making a witness out of him." Right. So you're trying to make a witness out of a Nazi sympathizer, and it won't work. There's no district attorney in the country that will put a man like that on the witness stand.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he was telling the truth. But this guy has crossed himself up and changed his story so many times over the last year. He's not a reliable witness anyhow. Even if he was not a drug addict, even if he was not a Nazi sympathizer, the fact that he has changed his story on camera so many times makes him an unreliable witness. He would never be admitted into a court of law.
Yeah. So you think it's not going to blow open? Like things aren't going to?
Not from him.
No.
I think what we were working on, which is the most sane thing to be doing. Whoever imagined that we would have a 50-year retired veteran from the Seattle Police Department, a captain, which is a commander, who has commanded several different divisions of the department, come forward, write a book, although it wasn't a true life book. It was a fictional book. But now he's in the process of writing a nonfiction book and naming names and coming right out and saying what he believes. Plus, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I interviewed him on our little Zoom thing, and I said, "So, Captain Lowe, tell me, do you believe Kurt Cobain was murdered?" And he says, "Yes, I do." Mm-hmm. So we've got a former captain from the Seattle Police Department, a 50-year veteran. Nobody's going to be able to poke holes in his credibility. You can't be a credible person and stay on a department at that rank for 50 years. We got him, and now these girls come forward with this heroin addict, Nazi sympathizer who crosses himself up and tells different stories, and that's getting in the way of everything we were working on. That was legitimate from law enforcement people. These girls don't know anything about the law or what a witness is or what qualifies as a witness or anything.
What about Courtney Love having a private jet and being able to go to the house at any time, and Hank Harrison, Courtney's dad, also mentioning that?
Yeah, that's a possibility, but I have the phone records from the Peninsula Hotel, so I have a pretty good, I was able to keep pretty good track of her just from the phone records alone.
Okay. All right, good. Because Eric's saying
I'm
that.
going to have to get going. It's been about 45 minutes now or so, something like that. But I don't mind. I enjoyed talking to you, Zach. But I've got a couple other people I've got to talk to before I get ready to go to bed.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. What time is it where you are?
It's 20 to 10.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's almost 1 o'clock, so I gotta go to bed.
Yeah.
All right. It was awesome
to
talk to you.
Great talking to you.
Yeah, after all these years to actually finally talk to you, that was a blessing. Thank you.
Well, you have a great night, and
thank you.
And God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too.
Okay, Zach.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.